capes, and conundrums. A slight bell rings, and the sonar behind the counter cuts off her yawn as the new girl comes in. "Oh, hey, Duty. You look like you've been through it. Are those level 4 events really that hard?" "No, I'm just having a bad day. Nothing else," Duty says. "Good grief, girl. I've known you for 20 years. Unclench already," the sonar behind the counter says as she lets go with her feet and doesn't so much fall to the floor as shift as she has a hand on the counter. "Swift shade," Duty says before the store owner, distant cousin, and good friend quickly bundles her into a chair and sets her up with a drink. "Now," Swiftshade says, quickly inverting herself and grasping onto the comfortable padded bars in the ceiling. "What's bothering you so much? You've always been uptight, but now you look like you're tense enough to make a lava serpent avoid you. It's stupid, and it's a day where everything's just stupid." "You're on your bleeds, aren't you?" "Swiftshade," Duty exclaims, and the hanging sonar laughs a little. Duty huffs and takes a deep drink of what she's been given and clears her throat. "No, I'm not. There's still a little bit of discomfort, but no, I am not." "Well, I'm out of ideas then. So what's happening? Honestly, how did someone like you ever become a business owner?" "My good looks," Swiftshade says, flashing a smile filled with sharp bloodletting teeth. "More likely you threatened to eat someone." Duty snarks and Swiftshade snorts. "There you go. Feeling a bit better?" "A bit," Duty admits before sighing. "Still bothered, huh? Can I ask you a question?" "You just did." "You know what I mean." "I do. Ask away." "Is it right to be angry when spoken down to?" "Usually, but not always." "No, a mother will talk down to her children a lot, even if by mistake. A judge talks down to everyone in a courtroom, and that's just the stuff that pops into my head right away." Of course, there's also the eternal question of, is this actually happening? If someone's talking down to you, are they really? Or are you just hearing that for some reason? Swiftshade asks, and Duty considers. "I've been offered help in making a language for the sonar." "What?" Swiftshade asks. "Did you get ambushed by a roving linguist or something? How does that situation even begin to happen?" "I had just backed out of the events in the city. I was getting into that place again. Too angry, too deep in my head, and too..." Duty begins before pausing as a small group of sonar come in. It's a 10-minute wait until they all have what they want, and Swiftshade bids them all to come again after paying. "You were saying?" Swiftshade asks. "Too angry and too deep in your head and..." "Just too upset. I get like that sometimes, you know that." "I do. You've always been a grump," Swiftshade remarks. "Well, right after getting out of the game, I fluttered down to ground level. I bumped right into the people running it, accidentally finding the end goal by just stepping out of the race, as it were," Duty says, and Swiftshade nods as she grabs a little snack from under the counter and starts chewing on it. "So I started following them around, and they didn't seem to mind. I just wanted to see things from the other end. There's some scary skill there." "So they're basically out of the comic books, right? I saw some of the tests with the Deathstroke guy. That man can move. Well, the Deadshot player can shoot. He can really, really shoot. But that's not the problem, is it?" "No, it isn't," Duty says before slowly looking away. "Hey, none of that. You can go down the mazes in your gray matter after you've explained the problem, not before." "Sorry. Thank goodness you don't work here. You'd tune out the world and people could walk out with entire shelves." "I'm not that bad." "No, but it does get you to focus," Swiftshade says, and Duty huffs in annoyance. "Well, they started talking about the kind of names we have, and I explained how we do it, which got them thinking about how there's a style we can't do with untranslated native names. Then the one playing the shooter says that if we don't have a language, then we should make one, as if we can just pull an entire language out of a hat or something. That's more funny than anything. Or was it something in their tone or axiom presence? Swiftshade says, and Duty shakes her head. Then what was wrong? They then said I should get into contact with the man who plays Bane. Apparently he's been looking for a way to help us culturally. Duty says bitterly, and Swiftshade goes silent. See? Exactly, it's what they're already doing? What? Hello? We remodeled the entire city after their imaginary city. We've got huge fans of their comics and entertainment, and they showed up to help make everything run smoothly. They're already helping us culturally. That's different. We started that of our own initiative, and a lot just clicked. We love the architectural style of having so much fanciness at every level, and the blimps floating around as traveling market squares. The high buildings, the darker lights that don't burn our eyes, the wonderful echoes off the buildings. Just because someone thought of it first doesn't mean it's not a good idea, Swiftshade states. Anything else, O wise Sonir of the counter? Duty asks dryly. Cooties never leave, you just learn to love the taste, Swiftshade says with a completely straight face. Duty's going to have to actually try to offend her. The more solemn and severe Sonir chuckles at that as she considers. It's why I left their presence, actually. Cooties? What? No, I mean, they're just trying to help. They're taking what we've already done and making it easier. Finishing something we started. That's fine. That's good even. You can even call it great. But it feels wrong. We try to find some way to be ourselves. Long, sometimes casually, sometimes barely, and sometimes desperately, but always looking for something to be ours. To be us. There's no part of Sonir history that's just Sonir. We are always part of someone else's story. Even this. It's a human story. We're just in it. Duty says morosely, yes, that is a problem. But are you looking for an answer? Or are you looking for someone to blame? That's why I got away from them. I could feel myself trying to make the problem they're trying to help with their fault. It's not their fault. I know it's not their fault, but I don't know. I want to blame them. Despite the fact that our race has been part of the galaxy for much longer than their own? Swiftshade asks. Well, they've been part of the galactic community for only a little bit. But I've looked at their history. There's so much of it. Wars and death and triumphs and titanic personalities shattering their world and species coupled with a slow but inevitable tide as peoples grow wiser and stronger. There are so many ways of life, so many peoples, so many ways they consider themselves before they consider themselves human that, I don't know. We have millions of living Sonir for each human alive today, but each of those humans is so much richer in the way of past and history. Well, I'm sure the billions of dead, martyred, murdered, and mutilated humans are sitting in the afterlife smug, knowing that you're jealous of their descendants, Swiftshade says, and Duty sighs. I know. Again, it's why I left them. The anger is irrational and I know it, but I'm still angry. She freezes as the door opens again and Swiftshade quickly attends to the customers. But before they leave, more come in, followed by more as Duty nurses her drink and considers. Hey, could you grab some Lara's rinds from the back for me? I'm a bit busy here. Swiftshade says to Duty, who nods as she tosses out the empty can and heads into the storage room. It takes only a minute to restock the shelf, and the flurry of customers actually increases again, and Duty is asked to restock another 5 different products in short order. Several customers are friends and kick off their own conversations in the store, and Duty sits back down again and considers. Culture, identity, the meaning of a people. It's always a huge problem when it's something this complicated that's bothering you. It's not something you can just come to a decision or learn about to answer. Even death is easier to handle. Coming to terms with the inevitable end of life is just part of life itself. But, really, a culture can only be built over generations, can only be set up as habits become traditions, as small flares become rituals or personal belief becomes religion. The work of decades, of centuries, not something that can just be changed. As the customers leave, Duty sighs to herself and considers further. If you weren't breathing, you'd be a statue. Swiftshade notes, and Duty gives out a groan of disgust and frustration. Well, that's what you get when trying to solve a problem where you need literally a whole city to solve. What was that? Duty asks. The problem you have is something it takes an entire city to solve. What? Is it not obvious? Swiftshade asks, and Duty considers. Oh, come on. Don't act like you couldn't see it. Culture, tradition, identity, whatever you want to call it, isn't a one-woman job. No, it's not. Duty says, as she rubs her chin deep in thought. She's then yanked out of it as Swiftshade takes her picture and immediately uploads it to social media. I call it the stumper, Swiftshade exclaims with a giggle, and there's an immediate notification. Hey, what do you mean fake? How can this be fake? Wait, what? No, it's not Photoshop. Come on! Duty lets out a slight chuckle as her friend struggles with the unending morass and stupidity that is social media. She leans back and considers as she closes her eyes to let sound just wash over her. The slight buzz of the light and nearly imperceptible hum of electricity below it. Further out is the sound of slight air movement from the cooling units chilling the air over and over again. The building is soundproof, but Sonar ears are stronger than that. Outside there's flapping, gliding, and the slight pull of wind on soft leather wings, the patter of ash being slammed into aircar windshields, and more beyond. Yet above everything else, forever in the background, and eventually dismissed as it's always there, is the groaning cry of the lava trench and the sheer tectonic force and pyroclastic power held within. The multiple layers of shielding keep the city safe, but the sheer power held at bay as familiar as one's own heartbeat to the residents within. Hey, thanks for letting me think, Swiftshade, Duty says as she rises up to a walking position. No problem. If you just think on things alone, you never get anything done. Yes, I think deeply, but in circles. Glad to knock you out of it. So what did you decide? That I need to know more. I need to talk with more people. What pissed me off was the idea of not having a say in my own way of life. But that's stupid. I go along with what I choose, so that meant that it was something deeper. I want to help shape the future of the Sonir, and I'm not getting that done by moping around. So what are you going to do? Swiftshade asks. I think I need to talk to some overly sexy apes. Duty says, and Swiftshade snorts so hard she nearly falls from her perch. Can I quote you on that? No. You'll take it out of context and make me sound like anything from a pervert to, well, a different kind of pervert. She finishes lamely. Bestiality or pedophilia? Swiftshade asks. At exactly the same moment a customer walks in, and they immediately walk out again. The much less serious Sonir merely laughs at this. But seriously, go talking with them if you think it'll help. You got good ideas, but you get hung up on the problems very easily. Having a few more brains bouncing things around will help out a lot. Right. I think I'll do just that, Duty says. Thank you. You're welcome. Although if you're really thankful, drag some of those walking slabs of man down to the store so I can order up a deep... Not listening. I am so not listening to you. Duty sings over her friend as she leaves, and the last thing she hears of the store before the door fully closes is Swiftshade's laughter